All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Readers. Palantir, what a monster move after hours. If you don't know why, it's right here. Palantir will be coming into the S&P 500. That's huge. Actually, the post came up here even earlier than this. So both Palantir and Dell are going to be joining the S&P 500. That obviously means two stocks are getting removed from the S&P 500, right? So I would look to see what those two are and maybe expect bad things to happen there. Make sure those aren't stocks that you're holding. That is an amazing thing. And hey, again, this, I normally don't care about after hours. I always say that. That's a pop right there. That's a pop, literally a penny away from my golden line resistance, right? Like that is a monster reaction to an amazingly monster headline. All right. Generally, right, and I love saying it, you buy the rumor and you sell the news. This one, this is news. This is some real news, and it's putting us in a place that I called our all-time high golden line, right? Clearly, I have a resistance up there. Clearly, we have stuff up here. If we break this line, all I can think about is all-time highs, and I'll talk about that golden line shortly, right? But oh man, big move, so I gotta go over the sector. I'm gonna talk about SoundHound. I normally do. I'll cover that shortly. I don't know if I'm gonna cover it on this or not. The one thing I'm gonna say, and this is kind of a selfish, personal comment, all right? I remember this run like it was yesterday, all right? I remember AI under teens all the way to almost 50. I remember that like it was yesterday. For AI to be, what was it, as low as 17, 19, 18, so I was shocked that AI dropped all the way to the teens again. Obviously, it's recovered a little bit. And again, I don't know if I'm going to cover AI or not. Shoot it in the comments if you want to. We'll see how long this video goes. But earnings weren't bad. It sounded like guidance wasn't good. End of the day, I always say, I don't care if it's a blue chip, I don't care if it's a penny stock or something in between like this. Earnings scare me, and man, talk about a wild reaction to earnings. Talk about just basically losing all five. Oh man, right? So AI, on a personal note, I'm a little bit shocked that that thing's in the teens, all right? But yeah, Palantir I'll talk about. SoundHound I'll talk about. If I don't run too long, I'll throw in AI at the end, all right? So before I do go any further though, and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I am so grateful for it, all right? So before I talk about the charts, before I actually even go super deep on the news, I want to stress this really quickly, all right? We're in a place where the indices are not looking too well, all right? Palantir is a tech stock. The first place I always look is the NASDAQ, right? And that's a little bit of a scary NASDAQ right there, all right? And I just made a video a couple days ago basically saying, look, Tesla, I mean, obviously it was a bad Friday and like kind of, I don't want to say ignore it, right? But you get the point. Like Tesla's been doing okay, right? NIO has been doing fantastically, right? Polestar has been doing all right, even fantastically, right? So some tech has been doing well. But when I look at this NASDAQ downtrend, it's very much NVIDIA mimicking, right? And there's been some theories that like this AI world is getting a little bit more of a hit when you're talking about tech. And to me, Palantir's in that world. I'm sorry, my cat's trying to come inside. What are you doing? Meow. Hi. Meow. I'm making videos for the people. Come here, I'll pet you and talk. Okay, so it's one of those things where as I look at Palantir, a little bit of me is on the, like, I don't want to use the word fundamental because it's a technical side, right? But fundamentally, I do believe indices need to do well before an individual stock can do well, right? When I look at the S&P 500, it's actually the exact same thing as well, right? And even if the news wasn't connected, I did talk about it, we'll talk about, like, I always look at the S&P 500 and I always look at NASDAQ when we're talking about any tech stock, right? And those two things would actually make me be worried for a stock like Palantir. All right. All of a sudden, the stock gets a big headline. And look, I mean, I immediately, within seconds, knew that was huge, right? Like when there are in my head, and when I say in my head, like almost 95% of the people would agree with this, right? There are three major indices. There's the NASDAQ composite, there's the Dow Jones, and there's the S&P 500. And that's probably not in order. Most people would probably even put the S&P 500 number one, and then you can argue about NASDAQ and Dow Jones, right? So to get uplisted, the word uplisted is generally followed with a lot of green candles. All right, most of the time on the crazy stocks I'm talking about, you get uplisted from the over-the-counter pink into a major market, right? Sometimes, and I remember it with Palantir, I think I remember it with SoundHound not too long ago, you'll get uplisted into like the next level of indices. You'll get uplisted into the Russell maybe, right? Or dude, there's so many indices, dudettes, there's so many indices. I'm not here pretending I know them, right? But to get uplisted into one of the big three is monster. And look, I know we've seen sillier after hours runs, right? Like 8% arguably is not that silly, right? But that's monster. That's monster. And it's very opposite of what's going on with the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. Right now, Palantir is trying to break out of the current and use its own engines to go its own direction, right? And man, that's going to be interesting to see if it holds. At the minimum, the market is respecting the initial moments of that uplisting, right? So let's start talking about this line right here, right? Because you saw it when I zoomed out. Why would I make this the golden line when there's clearly things higher, right? So let's first come to the weekly, and I'm going to zoom all up. Too much. I'm so sorry. That was dumb. Let's just do it like this. When I look at the weekly chart, okay, this golden line is the top of the only real candle in the weekly. Doji doesn't count. I don't make things on red candles. This is my all-time high on the longer term. Look, on these videos, I only look at the daily and the weekly. The weekly is my longer term view. Like this is 5 times long. It takes 5-day candles to make one weekly, right? If you can break the biggest candle on the longer chart, that's the line I care about. That's why this one's golden, even though that's clearly higher, even though all-time highs that is my all-time high number right there. All right. When I look at the daily, right, I'm going to zoom out. When I look at the daily, and I'll zoom in a little bit here just so you see it. There's for sure one more real candle, right? This right here, this January 27th, 2021, right? That's a real green candle. You can see it, right? I'll even zoom in just a little bit more. Why not? Where's my little zoom thing? Oh, I messed it up. Oh, here it is. Duh. Right? Come on, baby. There we go. That's a real candle, right? And that's for sure worth drawing one more line, right? But again, because of that longer time frame, that's my number. Over that golden line is just green, red, green, red, right? Like there isn't too much resistance over this. Maybe it's that, right? But that is the number. And for the uplisting, again, I'm not here bragging about my ability to draw lines, right? For that uplisting to come to the golden line, oof, This right here is one of those things, and I don't know what to like give my advice on, right? Because again, I sincerely believe if the indices are doing bad, so will the random stocks that we buy, right? Maybe this is now making Palantir not random anymore, right? I don't know, right? But let me do one more thing. When we go after hours, oof, look at that. We actually get a very substantial green over red flip right there. And then instead of my worry, right, that we were about to go into the negative, because that's a scary, look, divergence is still divergence, right? I don't care if, like, this is bad divergence. They're both red over green, and it looks like the green's going to diverge down, down, down and away, right? When I look at the pop news, that's better. And now I'm looking at flat, and hey, maybe it's gonna, like, that's a big reaction, right? And I think the answer is basically gonna be maybe around in the middle of that. I think we need to creep into 34. I think if we can close around $34, that'll make me confirm this $32 line, right? It's almost 33 really. So um, excuse me, I'm like thinking, because like that's way more 50-50 than I want to end this. But I'm telling you, I'm not sure if the momentum of the news is going to outweigh the indices. If the indices recover, oh, this one's going to fly hard, right? So um yeah, I think more than anything, I have to assume this is going to do well. I actually do. I think there's more things that make me believe this is going to come up to that 36 line that I have than I can believe that we're going to come down to 29. I think 36 makes way more sense than 29 to me. It actually really does, even though I'm looking at that NASDAQ and S&P go down, right? But if those go down too hard, I do believe it will pull this down despite the news. You know what I mean? So like I said, way more 50-50 than I wanted to end this, but it's hard to battle the currents of the indices. That's something I've come to learn and respect. You know what I mean? So please let me know if you disagree with that. I'm not here pretending I know it all or I'm right most of the time, right? Like, let me know if you disagree and I'm being too cautious or whatever the word is, right? But yeah, I'm gonna give respect to the indices, and that's where I'm ending this. You know, I appreciate you so much. Let's move into SoundHound. And you know I got to get a little bit worried when I'm seeing a chart that looks like this, right? So I often say if you're gonna go horizontal, right, and you can see this thing was basically horizontal for weeks and weeks and weeks, you might as well put your money in the bank. You'll have way less gray hairs as your money is horizontal, right? Because that's what happens in the bank, right? The one thing, and this thing was horizontal at 2, horizontal at 4, horizontal at 5-ish, right? So you can say that there's some strength as your horizontal supports go up and up and up. End of the day, when you're going to lose moving averages, that's always going to worry me. And I think this right here, these last couple days are going to kind of supersede some stuff right here. All right. But really quickly, if you can subscribe, if you can share, oh man, it does wonders with these algorithms right here. So a couple things are jumping out despite what I just said about losing the moving averages, right? So one thing that happens, and I'm seeing it right here, right? When you have too many, and literally 4 of the 5, right? A significant majority of my moving averages too tight, you go to the top, you get thrown to the bottom, you suck back right in, you just start, you do this like oscillation thing, and I call it a tornado, because for real, you get thrown and then just suck back in. You can get thrown up and then just suck back in for absolutely no reason at all, right? So it's a difficult thing to break up and actually go down when you have too many lines too close to each other, all right? These last 4 days have not been good, and I think these 4 days really echo the difficulties that we see in NASDAQ. And you can see 2 bad candles with 2 dojis. It's the same difficulty we see in the S&P 500, 2 bad candles and 2 dojis, literally mirrored on SoundHound, 2 bad candles and 2 dojis, right? This is what was driving my Palantir thoughts behind it, right? It is very hard for a stock to do the opposite of the indices. When the indices are going up, when the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, when those are going up, man, most things should be going up. when those are going down, oof, you got to expect most things to come down, right? And literally, this is mirroring the exact moves, right? So, some of it is these moving averages spitting it out. I think most of it is that the stock is following the indices, right? On the technical side, it really seems like this wants to come down to 413 or even as low as 4, right? We are in a negative MACD, and that is not a good divergence. We're at 30 for sure, and generally that's the low side, right? But yeah, look, I mean, it wasn't that long ago we actually came into the 20s with the RSI, right? So this thing can still come a little bit lower, right? And again, that $4 line has been a big line. Whole mess of dojis, whole mess of dojis, a little bit of a support moment right there as well. A support moment right there. Like, we've been living around $4, I mean, since February, right? So this stock seems to be comfortable there, right? We cannot lose the 200 moving average. All right, we can't, because there was a moment, it was probably around here, if I had to guess. I was saying, I think we need to hold this $4 more than the 200. We're now at a place where, yeah, if we lose the 200, obviously the 4 is close enough, but losing the 200 will add to the momentum when we lose that 4, and that could be a bad fall, right? So this is like, we cannot go lower than 415. All right, for sure, not much lower than 4 on Soundhound. All right, personally, I would stay away from Soundhound until basically 5. I still like my 520 line right there. You can arguably say maybe it's worth lowering it to like 515. I think let's just keep it right there and then hopefully trade the move on up into the 7s. All right, but Palantir had a big headline. I don't know if you fast forwarded, right? But Palantir got uplisted to the S&P 500. Palantir seems to be able to, hopefully, we still need to see what Monday looks like and confirm, right? But Palantir's in a place where it can kind of use its own momentum to pull itself up in a way, right? I think Soundhound's at a place where it can't. I think that thing's following the indices, and really, Soundhound needs, nope, comp. Soundhound needs NASDAQ to get back into the like 17,500 range. It must do that. Soundhound needs S&P 500 to get back into the 5,500 range, right? It must happen, right? Otherwise, Soundhound's probably going to be at the mercy of those two is my best guess, all right? I'm not sure if earnings are coming up or not. Sorry, I'm trying to look at my phone and see if I can find a headline really quickly, because I think we're approaching earnings seasons, no? Sorry, I'm checking. I don't see anything top of the head. Let me know if there's anything I should know about earnings wise. Otherwise, oh man, every video I say, I appreciate you so much.